What's up everybody, the Dead Guy here, and in this video I'm going to go over and showcase to all of you the legendary weapons that are currently inside the game Surroundead. Now this is as of the update 0.7, also known as the preparation update. Now I love the variety of weapons in this game, and especially the legendary ones, as they are the funnest ones to use in my opinion. So I'm really excited to go ahead and talk about these, so let's dive straight into all of them right now. Alright, and starting off with our first weapon is the Barrett 50 cal. Now the Barrett 50 cal uses the 50 BMG ammo type and has a damage of about 225 to 265. The damage fall off range is pretty far with 185 to 215 meters. It has a crit chance of 20 to 30%, which is not bad. And also the crit multiplier is 20 to 25%. So this is actually going to be the hardest hitting sniper and weapon in the game currently. And to me, in my opinion, is the strongest one. And it also has a rate of fire of about 350 to 425 rounds per minute. So you can actually shoot this thing pretty damn fast. Alright, and our next weapon is going to be the Battle Ready Glock. This utilizes the 9mm rounds and has a damage of about 29 to 35. It also has a damage fall off range of about 30 to 40 meters, so not very far, but it has a crit chance of 14 to 22% and a crit multiplier of 24 to 33%. This is a really fun sidearm to use, and you can actually shoot this thing, which is one of the best things about this weapon. It has an RPM of about 1100 to 1200 rounds per minute, so you can shoot this thing really fast, and it also comes with a lot of attachments that I'm not showcasing right here, but you can have a suppressor, a sight, and an extended magazine, which makes this sidearm like one of the best in the games in my opinion. Alright, so our next weapon is going to be the Cberus. This utilizes the 308 rounds and has a damage of about 68 to 78. It has a damage fall off range of about 120 to 130 meters, which is pretty on par with a lot of the assault rifles in the game. And it also has a crit chance of about 30 to 35% and a crit multiplier of 20 to 30%, which makes it a really strong weapon, and honestly is like one of the funner ones to use. The magazine that you start off with though doesn't hold a lot of rounds in my opinion, but it has an integrated suppressor, which makes it a really good legendary weapon, and it has a RPM of about 750 to 850 rounds per minute, so you can really shoot those rounds off. Alright, and our next weapon is going to be the Colonel's Revenge. This utilizes the 5.56 rounds and has a damage of about 50 to 60. The damage fall off range is about 85 to 95 meters, so you can actually shoot farther than most of the other ARs in the game, and it has a crit chance of about 10 to 20% and a crit multiplier of 25 to 30%, and you can shoot 750 to 850 rounds per minute, so you can really rounds down range and really do some damage to the boss zombies. And this is actually a really fun weapon, and it's honestly, I think it in all of my playthroughs it's the weapon that I find the most when I'm finding legendary weapons, but it is a really fun weapon and a definite must-have in your arsenal. Alright, and next up on the list is going to be the Crusher. This utilizes the 7.62 round and has a damage about 54 to 64 and has a damage fall off range of about 110 to 120 meters, so this really does shoot a lot farther than most rifles. Also, it has a crit chance of 12 to 22% and a crit multiplier of 24 to 29%, and you are able to shoot 600 to 700 rounds per minute. That is actually pretty crazy, and this is one that I don't find very often or actually utilize myself too often, but when I do get my hands on it, it is always a fun one to use, and I do highly recommend it. Alright, and the next showcase weapon is going to be the Dark Machete. Now this is a melee weapon that does about 38 to 48 damage per hit, has a stamina drain of about 2 to 4, which isn't really bad. It also has a crit chance of about 30 to 40%, which is actually huge for a melee weapon, and a crit multiplier of 25 to 35%. So when you do hit those crits, it multiplies it, and it does a lot of damage. And honestly, this is one of my favorite melee weapons in the game. I think it looks the coolest, it's the funnest to use, and it's been around since I've been playing the game for about 2 years now. And to me, it's the coolest one. And we'll talk about another legendary weapon after this that's a good sidearm, like a good melee weapon, but this one is my favorite. Alright, and now our next weapon is going to be the Deadeye. This utilizes the 50 BMG ammo type, so it's a very hard hitting weapon, doing a damage of about 75 to 90 damage per hit, and has a damage fall off range of about 55 to 65 meters with a crit chance of 25 to 35% and a crazy crit multiplier of 40 to 50% chance. That is actually wild. And it has a 75 to 150 round per minute, so you can't shoot this as fast as some of the other sidearms in the game, but you can get some good amount of shots off and get that crit multiplier, which does a lot of damage. And this is actually one of the top 5 strongest weapons. I believe it sits at number 5 currently in the game. And it's a new addition with the newest update, so I haven't used it too often, but when I do use it, it is really satisfying to get those headshots and to really take zombies down. It clears out any walkers in the entire game, and it does some pretty good damage to the boss zombies. And not to mention, it looks really cool. I love the way this gun looks. I think the dev did a really good job with this one. All right, and now onto one of my personal favorites and one that I use all the time, the Exterminator. This is a 12 gauge shotgun, and it has a damage of about 22 to 27 per pellet, which does a lot of damage. And the damage fall off range is about 30 to 40 meters with a crit chance of 20 to 30% and the crit multiplier of a crazy 40 to 60%. This thing is one of my favorites in the game, and it is super fun to use and satisfying to kill walkers when you're just running around a town and just shooting them. It is a must-have for any survivor in the game, and I highly recommend spending your credits to get it, or if you find it, even better to you because it is so much fun to use. Not to mention, it looks really cool. Alrighty, next up on the list we have the Guardian, which uses the 7.62 round and has a damage of about 61 to 70 and a damage fall off range of about 110 to 125 meters with a crit chance of 10 to 20% and a crit multiplier of 25 to 30%. Now what makes this weapon good is it has a RPM of about 625 to 725 rounds downrange, so you can really shoot this thing pretty fast and do a lot of damage per second, which I know a lot of you guys really enjoy to have a weapon that can just DPS like crazy, and this is one of them to have, especially as a primary weapon, and it utilizes the 7.62 round, which you find all the time, so this is a must-have in your arsenal for sure. Not to mention, it has a bunch of attachments like a lot of the legendary weapons in this game, so this is definitely a fun one to use. Okay, and now on to that other melee weapon I was talking about, the Katana. This one does a damage of about 35 to 46 and has a stamina drain of about 2 to 6. Also, it has a crit chance of 15 to 30% and a crit multiplier of 20 to 30%. Now, this one is a newer addition. I don't remember exactly when it was added, but it was added a little later than when I started playing, but it is really fun. And what I noticed with it, which I'm not going to showcase here because I'm fighting a boss zombie, but it actually has a new animation when you swing onto a just a walker. There's actually a really cool animation, and I wish I could show it to you guys, but I wasn't fighting a walker at this time. But trust me when I say this is a great melee weapon to have, and if you find this or the other melee weapon I talk about, you can't go wrong. The damage is good, it's consistent, it's a must-have as a melee weapon as it beats all the other ones, so make sure to have this one on you. Alrighty, and getting into another one of my favorites, the Leachi sniper rifle. This one is awesome. It utilizes the 300 Winchester round, so a little more rare round, but you can craft rounds in this game, but it has a damage about 185 to 205, which makes it onto the top 5 strongest weapons in the game, and has a damage fall off range of 175 to 200 meters, which you would expect from a sniper rifle, but it has a really high crit chance of 45 to 60%, so that's huge, and a crit multiplier of about 15 to 20, so those headshots are going to be extra more satisfying, and this is one of my favorite snipers in the game, as it looks the coolest, it sounds the coolest, it has an integrated suppressor as well, and it is just a fun weapon to use, and you can get an extended mag to hold 12 rounds if need be, and yeah, it's just one of my favorite weapons to use in the game. I think it looks the coolest as well. I love the ghillie kind of material it has on it, so the dev definitely cooked with this one. Alright, now on to an oldie but a goodie, the Marksman's Legacy. Now for all of you older survivors out there who were playing the game around when I started about 2 years ago, this wasn't a legendary weapon at the time, it was actually a rare weapon weapon or a purple weapon. But I don't know why the dev moved it up to a legendary weapon, which I think is awesome because it utilizes the 308 round, which is very easy to find. And it also has a damage of 165 to 185, which is nothing to scoff at, as well as a damage fall off range of about 160 to 180 meters, which is to be expected for another sniper rifle, and a nice crit chance of 40 to 55%, with a crit multiplier of 18 to 23%. And this one is one that you're going to find and utilize probably the most, as, like I said, it uses the 308 round, which you find all the time. It's just more reliable. You could put a hunting scope onto it, you could put a suppressor onto it. It's just a really reliable sniper, and this is like the sniper to have if you play this game. So keep an eye out for this one. All right, and then we're on to a really unique and cool weapon called the Fantasm. This utilizes the 5.56 round, and again, this is another one of those weapons that was actually a rare weapon, not a legendary one when the game first came out. I remember this gun because you would just find it and toss it aside because it looked cool, but you never really utilized it. So I'm glad the dev took it from a rare and put it up to a legendary because it has a good amount of damage at 49 to 59 per hit and a damage fall off range of 80 to 90 meters. It has a crit chance of 18 to 23% and a crit multiplier of 25 to 30%. So it's not bad at all. And you can also put 800 to 850 rounds per minute downrange onto any of those annoying boss zombies or walkers. This thing is so cool, and I'm glad that it was bumped up to a legendary because, like I said, when it was a rare, you kind of just pushed it off to the side and just kind of forgot about it. It also utilizes the normal 5.56 magazine, so you don't need to find a legendary magazine for this weapon at all, which is a huge find for a legendary weapon because it is so annoying to try to find an extra magazine or to go and buy an extra magazine. You'll always have a 5.56 magazine laying around, so this is a great weapon because it does good damage, has good crit multiplier, a lot of rounds per minute down range, and you can utilize that magazine. So this is a must-have for anybody that finds it. All right, now on to our second to last gun of the video. This is the legendary weapon called the Survivor. This utilizes the 7.62 round, has a damage of about 53 to 62 per hit, and a crazy damage fall off range of 100 to 105 meters, with a crit chance of 12 to 22%, and a crit multiplier of 19 to 26%, with the rounds per minute being about 575 to 675 per minute. Now this weapon is really cool as it looks like an AK that was broken down into a bunch of little bits and then put back together with duct tape. It looks really cool, but I will say I don't really utilize it as much as the other weapons on this list, but it does have a drum magazine which holds a lot of rounds. So if you find it earlier on in the game, it's kind of a huge deal because you're able to put so many rounds down range because of that drum magazine. But I will say that there are other assault rifles that do better than this one, but it's still a really cool looking one. And like I said, if you find it early, it's a good one to have. Alrighty, now on to our last weapon of this list. This is the Valkyrie. This utilizes a 5.56 round with a damage of about 50 to 60 per hit and a damage fall off range of about 100 to 105 meters with a crit chance of 10 to 20% and a crit multiplier of 25 to 30% with a pretty good round per minute being at 750 to 850 rounds. And this one, in my opinion, looks like the coolest rifle in the game. It has a Viking axe as the stock of it, and it has like what looks like a tooth or something as like a foregrip, which I think looks really cool, and the dev definitely cooked with this one. You can find a bunch of attachments for it too, and this one, if you like looks, is a must-have because it just looks so damn cool. Alright, and those are all of the current legendary weapons inside Surroundead as of the 0.7 update that is currently out. I really hope the developer makes more of these weapons to bring a breath of fresh air into the game, as I think we could use some more, but there are a good amount as you can see in the game currently. Now I just want to thank you all for watching, and if you made it this far, comment your favorite weapon down below and let's talk about it in the comment section because I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the game, where it's at, and what kind of weapons you guys use. And yeah, just talk to me there. Also, if you like the video, make sure to subscribe for more content just like it, and feel free to join the Discord to join a community that loves survival games and gaming in general, and you can talk to me there. Alright, and as always, I love you guys. Peace.